EmilyCC has been streaming for 1,132 days straight, playing games, walking her dog, sleeping on stream. And when I first heard about that, I thought, that sounds boring. Who would want to watch that? And it turns out the answer is thousands of people. A lot of people have drawn a through line between Emily and The Truman Show, and I think that's a really interesting comparison. And not just because she lives her entire life on camera, but because for all of the shower thoughts and questions people ask about The Truman Show, and trust me, there are a lot of them, the legality of it, the logistics of it, how they handled Truman's weird hormonal teenage years, nobody ever asks why people would tune in to watch him sleep. This essay is called How Digital Media is Changing to Adapt to Our Increasing Isolation, or We Truman Showed Ourselves. If you were a kid in the 2010s, you probably watched a lot of Minecraft YouTube, or made some Minecraft YouTube. Or if you were like me, you said you were going to make some Minecraft YouTube and then didn't do it even once. The world of content was different back then. Gaming YouTube videos were often split into Let's Plays, which were clearly influenced by TV. They were 20 minutes long, often slightly scripted with some loose improv, and they fit into seasons. Think early Yogscast. And then streaming came and changed everything. In 2018, my favorite Minecraft YouTuber stopped making YouTube videos forever and started streaming full-time. And I didn't get it. I was mad. How could you go from curated, edited, polished, entertaining content to this? And be happy. So much of what we see now online has trended in the exact opposite direction. Short-form video and its visual language has impacted so much of what we watch online. Videos that used to be 20 minutes long are now curated down to 2. Mr. Beast has a graphic every 15 seconds. Have you ever noticed how many videos start with somebody yelling at you and talking like they're somehow already out of breath?
I just dropped these two strangers off in the middle of the wilderness!
The millennial pause is dead. And in that marketplace of density and overstimulation, where everything is trying to convince you not to look at your phone, like I'm doing now, look at me, eyes on the prize, streaming exists is almost the antithesis of that. It's slower pace, it's less focused. I remember finally catching one of my favorite YouTubers streaming, and I remember realizing this wasn't about entertainment, this was about hanging out. As I was working on this video, I tuned in a lot to Emily's streams to see what she was up to. And she mostly gets up to pretty normal stuff. There's a lot of walking her dog, or talking with the chat, or playing games. And it made me think of The Truman Show, because in the show, Truman is just an insurance agent. Most of his days are made up of going to work and talking to his family and mowing the lawn, living a normal, boring life. And when we watch the movie, we don't think, well, why would people tune in? That's boring, that's a waste of time. Drew Gooden released a really interesting essay recently, titled Everyone's Trying to Waste Your Time. And I think it had a lot of the great points, but I think one of the elements he missed was the why. Or more accurately, the why are we so happy to have people waste our time? Section 2. Please waste my time. In May 2023, the US Surgeon General declared loneliness a public health epidemic. And studies show it impacts young people aged 18 to 22 the most. More Americans live alone than ever before. More Americans stay home than ever before. We order in more often, we go out less, we date less, we see our friends less, we talk to strangers less. Do you want to guess when this spike in Twitch's viewership was? March of 2020. And it hasn't dropped off, even when restrictions were lifted or as Twitch's competitors grew in scale. By almost every social metric, we're worse off than we've ever been before. And whether it makes sense to you or not, a lot of Americans are finding an escape in watching people walk down the street or go to restaurants or playing games. Even if on in the background, we like having somebody else around. I know this may sound like a reach, but I think that streaming has fit into a larger trend in media over the previous couple of years. While a lot of media has been pushed into the heavily produced and the streamlined, the immediate, there's another side that's gotten slower. 3-hour-long comedy podcasts, YouTube video essays ranking every episode of iCarly, streamers filming themselves walking around town. There's an entirely different world of content that exists for you to watch or listen to while you drive or look at your phone or clean your bedroom. You know, like when you're in the kitchen and you're about to start making something and you pull out your laptop and you want to find something that's interesting but not so interesting that it's distracting. Like a comedy podcast exists in 2 different ways. It exists for the highly edited clips that you see scrolling on TikTok, but also for the 2 hours of just kind of hanging out and chatting that you listen to while driving home from work. There's a whole new genre that caters to the listener or the half-watcher who's doing something else. And if this sounds crazy to you, and it might, it's the same reason why when you get home from a long day of work, you don't turn on the new avant-garde French film you've never seen before, and instead you turn on The Office or New Girl for the 1000th time. And I don't mean to say this dismissively at all. I'm not saying that there aren't great, exciting moments in streaming or in The Office. New Girl is one of my favorite shows of all time, and there are awesome, exciting moments in it, but what percentage of my time watching it have I been directly engaged in it, and what percentage of the time have I been looking at my phone or cooking something? Streaming brings the low-level casual watch to the extreme. When you're watching a streamer like Emily, you can go into the other room and grab your charger, and you can come back because you probably didn't miss anything that important. I say streaming is the best of the hanging out media. It is the one that's closest to hanging out. You can comment on the streams and you can engage in the community, but you don't have to, and a lot of people don't. It makes me think of those two old women with stitched pillows with Truman on it. Clearly they can't talk to him, but also that doesn't impact the level of connection they feel they have with him. I think for a lot of people, streaming operates as almost a digital third place. And in both the Truman Show and the streaming world, the way these personalities foster this connection is really deliberate. Section 3. Parasocial relationships and a band-aid for a deep wound. All of the guides for becoming a creator involve building a community. It's why personalities open up their videos with lines like, "What's up, bro nation? How we doing, Team Platt? What's up, Dog City? How my dogs at? Bark, bark." You name your group. You develop a vernacular that's specific to your niche group. Smash that like button. Bro fist. Bark for the boys. Bark, bark. YouTube suggests that you respond to every single comment so that your audience feels listened to and like they're part of something. I mean, just this last month, YouTube Studio renamed the Comments tab to the Community tab. In a world with increasingly diminishing third places, I think that personalities in streaming have positioned themselves as sort of an alternative. On my days off, I spend almost all day without talking to anybody, but I'll tune in at lunch to a streamer to see them chat and see what they're up to. It's the market's response for a genuine need for connection. I'm not saying there isn't some value to this. I went out with this girl who streamed for a while, and the part she was most proud of was that her moderators of her chat were still friends with each other to this day. You can chat and engage and build a community, you really can. But as a response to loneliness, it's not really that effective. In a study, Americans were asked to rank the top 3 areas where they felt the highest sense of community and belonging. Only 3% said online communities and discussion forums filled that need for them. Even on The Truman Show, most of these viewers are watching him with other people. It's on in the background at a bar, or you're watching it with a buddy, or those two ladies watching it together. I'm always astounded by how much time I spend on the internet and how little time I spend talking about it in real life. And by the way, on the parasocial angle, I would never do that with you guys. As a YouTuber, I care about you specifically. You're my best friend, and I love you. I don't want to pretend like I'm not guilty of engaging in any of this. I watch streamers. I profess to want great art, but I've still never seen Citizen Kane, but I have watched every episode of The Simpsons ranked. I think developing parasocial relationships is stupid, but I still think if I met Drew Gooden out in public, we'd be good friends. Everyone I've talked to about this essay says that this uptick in entertainment that is designed to be on rather than directly watched isn't about loneliness, but it's about a need for distraction. Kids these days and their darn phones, they need to be distracted 24/7, 365. And I think that is partially true. Attention spans are shrinking. I mean, have you ever gone out in public and realized you forgot your headphones and then been like, ugh, now I have to be alone with my thoughts? Yuck. But I really think those things are innately tied together. Have you ever caught yourself reaching for your phone at a red light? That's a technological addiction. And the opposite of addiction is connection. I never feel the need to reach my phone when a friend is in the passenger seat. I don't need to fall asleep to a 3-hour retrospective on the Fairly Odd Parents when I'm in the arms of a lover. I don't watch a streamer on my phone when I'm out to dinner with my parents or in a third place or engaging in the real world. But most of the time I stay inside and I have something on in the background. I think that phones have made it easier than ever for us to disconnect from each other, to stay in and tell ourselves that we're engaging with the world, even when we're not. We're a culture that's desperately hungry for connection, yet we spend all day nibbling on chips to avoid the pain of making a meal. I don't want to paint streaming in a negative light. Economically, it makes a lot of sense for creators. It's one of the best ways for creators to actually make money to be able to do the stuff that they want to do and that you want them to do. Making high-quality content takes a lot of time. The economic incentives are really to make a lot of stuff quickly, and streaming matches that. And it is worth saying that a lot of people stream and then edit it down into dense YouTube videos that are very exciting and engaging. I don't watch streams, but I love the highlights of Small Ant or Hitman Horse, you know? Great stuff happens all the time online. But how can you not view somebody sitting in front of their computer for hours and think of Plato's Cave? Let me watch the shadows flicker on the screen while behind me is a room I don't want to see. An empty one. That's what The Truman Show is all about. Do we stay inside and accept the comfort that we know, or do we leave the dome and go touch some grass? And if you disagree with me and you think my analysis was wrong and I completely missed the mark, that's completely fair. And to make it up to you, here is a time lapse of me sleeping last night so that you too can get what you want.